Hi, I'm Jeff, and welcome to another one of my videos where I take a look at all the new comic books coming out on either April 26th or 27th, 2022. And I ask myself the question, what one new comic book would I buy this week if I could buy just one book? Let's go ahead and get started first by taking a look back at my pick from 2 weeks ago, which was Sandman Universe Nightmare Country, issue number 1. And the question remains, was it a worthy and worthwhile pick to be my just one book pick of the week? And the answer is yes. Yes. Actually, just right before recording this video, I just now finished reading it. It's really good. It's dark, it's twisted, it's freakish, it's confusing in a good way, in a way in which it's like I want to know more about what's going on. And that's part of what James Tynion IV does best. He creates these little mysteries that need to be solved of sorts. Little situations that are a little bit mysterious is probably a better way to put it. And so I really enjoyed reading it. In typical James Tynion IV fashion, it was as compelling as it was repelling, which is what I like so much about his work. And for somebody who knows basically nothing about the Sandman universe, I did not feel lost. I did not feel confused. I felt like I was just thrust into a world of nightmarish qualities. And I think James Tynion IV is the perfect person to bring that world to all of us. So I really, really enjoyed it. I'm absolutely going to stick with it and see where it goes from here. If you picked up Sandman Universe Nightmare Country, Nightmare Country, let me know down in the comments what you thought about it. I'd be interested in hearing your thoughts. Okay, let's go ahead and move forward and take a look at the books that are coming out this week. Now, last week I only focused on 4 books because that's what the week dictated. This week, instead of doing my typical 5 honorable mentions and 1 pick for the week, I'm going to do 6 honorable mentions and my 1 pick for the week. And it's not because this is such a fantastic week for books. It's actually not that fantastic of a week. It's maybe a little bit better than average, but it's far from fantastic. It's just when it came down to like which one to take away, I couldn't really decide which one to take away. So I'm just going to give you an extra honorable mention this week, and I'm going to do it very, very quickly. First, I'm going to let you know about 3 books that I am pulling this week that I will not be talking about specifically other than in this I'm pulling it section of the video. Berserker number 8 is coming out, and I will be picking that up and reading it. I've been enjoying that still. I'm also picking up New Burn, issue number 6. I actually read this little thing from Chip Zdarsky's Substack where he talked about... he answered a question about writing the pilot script for New Burn, and he basically commented about how he's written it and that the people that he's working with really seem to like it, and that they're starting to look for a potential showrunner toward the eventual goal of shooting a pilot for the New Burn series. So that is a property that I've really been enjoying the read of that potentially has legs outside of the comic book medium. And then finally, Saga, issue number 58 is another book that I'm pulling this week. It's like the biggest comic book out there. It's like the number 1 pulled comic book on League of Comic Geeks, and I assume that means it's selling more than any other book, or if not close to more than any other book. That is something very, very special to say about an indie book. So I'm enjoying it, and I'm definitely going to be picking it up this week. The next 2 books I'm going to talk about in my honorable mentions are 2 other books that I'm pulling, and then my just one book pick of the week is the last book that I'm pulling. So the first honorable mention I want to mention to you is Something is Killing the Children, issue number 22 From Boom Studios, here's the description. Outside London, the shadowy figure on Erica's trail relays information to their enigmatic superior about the rogue agent in the House of Slaughter. Meanwhile, the town finds itself in the clutches of an elusive serial killer, and the only living witness to the crimes is a frightened child. Erica investigates the grisly scene of the most recent murder, ignorant of the hostile forces drawing in around her. Okay, so there's a few reasons why I mentioned this book this week. One, it's Something is Killing the Children, and it is the best. It's basically like a given that it's at least going to be an honorable mention whenever it comes out for me, because it is really, really so good. Two, Key Collector lists that there were going to be 3 new first appearances in this issue number 22. Now, there were first appearances in issue number 21. Apparently, there are going to be more first appearances in issue number 22. This is not really surprising because Erica is in a new city, and so she's going to be interacting with new characters. So that's not super exciting, but for those of you that are specking on Something is Killing the Children, it's always good to have a nice little collection of first appearances. So issue number 22 promises to have more first appearances. Now, it may have a cameo appearance of a new character that is likely to have its first full appearance in issue number 23. So we may get a cameo for this character in issue number 22, and that is this character right here. This is Cutter. Now, I don't know much about Cutter other than the fact that she, I believe, looks insane. Looks like she could be a nemesis for Erica, and also looks pretty awesome and like a pretty cool character, and one that I am looking forward to learning a lot about. So this is a character that I think is worth keeping an eye out for. So issue number 22 might have a cameo of this character. It might not, but definitely we'll be talking about this character and this title more when it comes around to issue number 23. The next honorable mention that I have for you is once again another book that I will be pulling this week. It is Thor, issue number 24 from Marvel Comics. Here's the description. Star-studded celebration of 750 issues. After a scorched earth victory against the god of hammers, Thor and all of Asgard reel from a brutal loss. But some people are never truly gone. And as Thor and his allies come together, so will fan-favorite creators from throughout Thor's history. In addition to the main story by Kate Sinclair, join some of Thor's most acclaimed writers and artists as they revisit their landmark runs with all new adventures. Writer J. Michael Straczynski and artist Oliver Coipel reunite for a story set during their redefining Thor saga. Legendary comics creator Dan Jurgens writes and draws an incredible Thor and Baldur team-up. Comics icon Walter Simonson writes and draws an all-new adventure starring his beloved creation, Beta Ray Bill. Ali Ewing and Lee Garbett collaborate for the first time since Loki, Agent of Asgard, to bring you an all-new chapter for the God of Mischief. Superstar team Tom DeFalco and Ron Frenz are back together to captivate you with an Enchantress story. And prepare for a revelatory tale about Odin that only writer Jason Aaron and artist Das Pastoris can deliver. Celebrate the long and storied history of the God of Thunder with the writers and artists who helped build his legacy. This book is an anniversary book, oversized, lots of extra content, costs you $8.99. So that very long description basically tells you everything you need to know, in addition to the fact what I just mentioned. It is an anniversary issue. So that's reason to pick it up if you're a Thor fan. Now, usually these anniversary issues have a ton of bonus content, but none of it is really spec-worthy. It's a victory lap. It's a celebration. It's really nothing new and exciting. The new and exciting they're trying to put in there is all this additional content from all of these Thor contributors of the past. That being said, ever since Tosin Oduye, I always forget his last name, but ever since the character of Tosin showed up in Black Panther issue number 3, that anniversary special, I'm refocused on anniversary specials and the potential little nuggets that might come from them. So that might be worth keeping an eye out for, but I doubt it. But I just want to mention it even still. The main reason to pick up this book is if you're a Thor fan, if you're a fan of the history of the Thor, if you're a fan of these contributors to Thor's legacy and stories and art, these are all reasons to pick up this book this week. The next book I want to mention to you is a new book. It is called The British Paranormal Society, issue number 1 of a 4-issue limited series from Dark Horse Comics. Here's the description. British Paranormal Society members Simon Brutenholm and Honora Grant arrive at Noxton together, but with separate goals. Honora hopes to uncover information on the town's strange traditions, while Simon is searching for his missing assistant. But their separate investigations lead down the same twisted path that hides a dark secret behind Noxton's innocent facade. Mike Mignola and Chris Robertson expand the Hellboy universe with a spooky new tale featuring art by Andrea Muti with colors by Quentin Winter. Okay. So basically the reason that I mentioned this book is right there at the top of the cover from the world of Hellboy. Hellboy, Mike Mignola, this is good stuff. People are big fans of this world. It's kind of neat. I got to give a lot of credit to Mike Mignola. I don't read a lot of Mike Mignola, but I like his style. And because I like his style and because I appreciate him as a creator, I had to go ahead and mention this week as an honorable mention. The next book that I want to mention to you is Knights of X, issue number 1 from Marvel Comics. Here's the description. The quest begins here, where mutants are hated and feared once again. The gates to Otherworld are closed, and Captain Britain is trapped on the wrong side. Usurpers Merlin and his right-hand man King Arthur are now in control of Lunatic Citadel. Furies the size of sentinels raze villages to the ground in their hunt for the witch breed. Cut off from Krakoa, Betsy Braddock is Otherworld's only hero, and to save her people, Betsy must recruit a round table of her own. The Knights of X gather to restore the rightful order and rescue desperate mutants. But their quest is about to get so much bigger than that. This is the era of destiny, and the fate of Otherworld lies at the center of mutantkind's future. Don't miss this essential piece of the new Krakoa. Okay, so I'm an X-Men fan, but at first this was not interesting to me. The things that are interesting to me about this are what it says in the first. The quest begins here, where mutants are hated and feared once again. Admittedly, that's part of what I liked about the X-Men when I read them back in the 80s and 90s. I liked that people hated and feared mutants. But here we had a team of mutants who didn't care that humanity didn't like them. They were going to protect humanity nonetheless against whatever bad guys, be they cosmic, earthbound, or other mutants. I'm not quite so sure that this is going to deliver on the same conflict that did, but I am interested in a world where mutants are kind of like doing good in a world that is thankless, that doesn't really appreciate it, but they do good anyways. Also, if you're a fan of King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table and Merlin and stuff like that, it seems like we're going to get a dose of that in this. So if you like that stuff, the Knights of the Round Table stuff, Camelot stuff, and you also like the X-Men, this might be a book worth checking out. The next book that I want to mention to you this week is Amazing Spider-Man, issue number 1 from Marvel Comics. Yes, we are starting over with an issue number 1 of Amazing Spider-Man. Here's the description. Peter's on the outs with the FF. He's on the outs with the Avengers. He's on the outs with Aunt May. No one wants to see Spider-Man, except for Dr. Octopus. Ox on Spider-Man's tail, and the master planner has something truly terrible planned for when he gets his tentacles on Spidey. All that, and what does Tombstone have planned? Just in time for Spider-Man's 60th anniversary, a new volume of Amazing Spider-Man begins. And 2022 is going to be the biggest year for Spider-Man ever. Don't believe us? We brought John Romita Jr. back just for this. Okay, so what is there to say about this? Well, it's the Amazing Spider-Man issue number 1. It's noteworthy because it is a reboot of one of the most popular comic book series and one of the most popular comic book characters ever. So there's no way I can make a video about comic books that are coming out this week and not mention that we are rebooting The Amazing Spider-Man with an issue number 1. Now, the previous Spider-Man title had some moments of interest for me from a speculation standpoint, but it never grabbed my attention as a reader. I would really like to see that change, but I don't think it's going to change with this right now, unfortunately. But if you're a big Spider-Man fan, you were going to buy this anyways. If you like some of the cover art, you might buy it for that reason. Or if you're just looking for a jumping on point for Spider-Man, you haven't been collecting it in a while and you want to test the waters again, now would be a perfect time to do that. All right, the next honorable mention that I have for you is a new book called Blood-Stained Teeth, issue number 1 from Image Comics. Here's the description. Christian Ward, the Eisner Award-winning co-creator of Odyssey, Invisible Kingdom, and Machine Gun Wizards, returns to Image with red-hot artist Patrick Reynolds for an all-new ongoing series, a fast-paced 100 bullets style crime saga with fangs. Atticus Sloan, misanthrope, criminal, asshole, and vampire, lives in a world where blood isn't the only thing vamps crave. And for the right price, he'll make you a vampire too. After all, immortality isn't cheap. Okay, so as I've mentioned before in videos, I am not a huge fan of vampires. I think they're a little overused, a little played out, so to speak. And this is just another kind of bit of evidence of that. We have yet another vampire-themed story. That being said, I acknowledge that sometimes they can be good. I've been really enjoying DC versus vampires. So I'm not against them as a rule. This one sounds like it could be pretty interesting. I'm less interested in stories that are about vampires as they are about situations that happen to be happening in a world with vampires or tend to be happening to vampires. That the main thing isn't about vampires. And that seems like this is kind of part of that. That this character being a vampire is just part of who they are. It's not everything about them. It's just something about them. And that there's more going on in their life than simply being a vampire. A vampire is the prism through which they see the world, and it's part of, how they exist, obviously, on this planet. But it's not the be-all, end-all of what the story is about, the conflict of being a vampire. So I think that's interesting. If you like vampires, I think this might be a good vampire story worth checking out, worth picking up. Okay, let me just double check something. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Great. I've done my 6 honorable mentions. So now it is time to tell you what my just one book pick of the week is for this week. My just one book pick is The Last Ronin, issue number 5 of 5 from IDW Publishing. Here's the description. The jaw-dropping finale to the biggest TMNT story ever is here. One final showdown between Mutant and Foot Clan will determine the fate of New York City. Will the Ronin be able to find some measure of peace, or is he fated to meet the same fate, the same end as his brothers? Don't miss one of the most epic battles in TMNT history and the conclusion of the comic book event of the year. Okay, so here's why I picked this book this week. Well, first off, it's taken about a year for these 5 issues to fully come out. I think they started coming out, wow, I think it's been more than a year. I'll have to look that up. I'm just curious for myself, but it's been a long time. These 5 issues, it had been taking a long time. And to a certain degree, for me, it has built up anticipation. I'm really excited that I'm finally going to get the last issue from this series. And part of the deal is, why am I so excited? Well, that's an excellent question that I ask myself, because I am not a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle fan in general. I picked up issue number 1 of this series mostly for the spec aspect of it. But I kept reading it because it was really good. It was really entertaining. Even for somebody who is not a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles fan, I was really engaged and interested in the story. So now that we're finally getting to the end of it, I'm really interested to see how the story ends. I don't think it's a spoiler to say in this story there's only one Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. The rest are dead. So this is kind of a story that leads us to the end of all stories potentially about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. At best, you could have more stories about The Last Ronin, but it seems like he's been on a bit of a suicide mission. Either the enemy dies or he dies. And I have a feeling that that is how this story is going to end. And I'm looking forward to seeing how they basically kind of sort of wrap up the story of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And then once again, I want to reiterate, it's just been really, really good. And I'm picking this book in a week that has Something is Killing the Children, a book that I enjoy above all others. But when I had to pick my pick for the week, I thought to myself, which book am I most excited about? Which book am I anticipating reading the most? And which book am I most interested in grabbing and reading first? Now, all of those things are true of Something is Killing the Children, but it was just slightly more true of this The Last Ronin book, because it's the last one, and because it's been very, very good, and because it feels like it's taken forever to get this story. So for all of those reasons, that is why, for me personally, this week, my just one pick is The Last Ronin, issue number 5. All right, well, that's my video for this week. I hope it wasn't too long. If you enjoyed the information, as always, I enjoy likes from you. And if you haven't subscribed, I invite you to subscribe. I have a Test Your Comic Book Grading Skills video that is going to be coming out soon. So make sure you hit the notification bell when you subscribe so you're notified when I post that video. It was an interesting one. It might be worth checking out. As always, thank you all so much for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one.